Well, our reporter Paul Hawkins is at King's Cross Station.
Sky's Paul Hawkins reports. Straight to our reporter Paul Hawkins, who is outside the High Court for us.
Paul, remind us of the details of this case. This is BBC World News. I'm Paul Hawkins. Our top stories. The UK's chief negotiator arrives in Brussels to resume Brexit trade talks. Sources say it's a final throw of the dice to get a deal done before the transition expires.
We're going to see what happens in negotiations today, and we will be looking forward to meeting our European colleagues later on this afternoon.
Donald Trump holds his first rally since losing the US presidential election, calling on voters in Georgia to help keep the Senate under Republican control. Hello and welcome to BBC World News. We begin in Brussels, where the UK's chief negotiator, Lord Frost, has arrived to resume last-minute talks with his EU counterpart, Michel Barnier, to get a post-Brexit trade deal done. On Saturday night, the UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson and the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, failed to reach an agreement. Our political correspondent, Jonathan Blake, reports. And this is the electoral map of the United States, James. Those states that are in red are projected to win for Donald Trump. The ones in blue projected to win for Joe Biden, but the ones we're interested in are the ones in grey. So Nevada, Arizona, Pennsylvania, North Carolina and Georgia. Also Alaska down here, but we're going to ignore that for the purposes of these maths because that's worth only 3 electoral college votes. And it's likely to come in for Donald Trump, who isn't happy because he's only on 214 electoral college votes. He needs 270 to retain the presidency, so he needs 56 electoral college votes, which means that really his path to retaining the White House is much narrower. Joe Biden, on the other hand, he only needs 17 electoral college seats.
Back out to our reporter, Paul Hawkins, who is outside the High Court for us. So this ruling means that this drug will be available on the NHS?
As it stands at the moment, NHS England have appealed against that decision. So that's it's not a given yet that it will be available immediately on the NHS. But just to give you the background to this case today, this was all about who pays for this wonder drug. Now, NHS England had successfully argued previously that it wasn't under their remit to have to pay for this drug because it was preventative medicine. And then that falls under the remit of local authorities. They said that under current legislation, local authorities are the ones that are responsible for preventative medicine. But this judicial review today here at the Royal Courts of Justice overturned that decision. It was brought about, that judicial review, by the National AIDS Trust. They, as you can imagine, are very happy with the decision. And earlier today, Yusuf Azad from the Trust told me a little bit more about the drug.
Well, Sky's Paul Hawkins is live at Beachy Head in East Sussex. The flotilla passed by there. And Paul, we've heard that statement there. What does this all really mean? It's a bit of posturing by the Russians, isn't it?
It certainly is. When Russia deploys its only aircraft carrier built some 31 years ago for the first time in combat and sails it accompanied by 5 other naval vessels down the English Channel, past the British coastline, only 14 miles away, that is a message from Russia, both to Britain, NATO and the West, that it means business, that it is a global military power. It's getting involved in world affairs and it can do what it wants, where it wants, when it wants. Here earlier today, it got so close to the coastline, still within international waters, but still very close to the coastline, that using the long lens, we could make out 2 warplanes on the deck of the aircraft carrier. It can contain just over 50 planes, so it is a significant military contribution to Russia's effort in the Syrian civil war once it arrives in the Mediterranean, where the Russians already have 10 warplanes, most of them arriving there from the Black Sea via the Bosphorus. So the route that this Russian flotilla took, indeed sending out a message both to Britain and the West and to NATO, and that's why the Ministry of Defence taking that flotilla so seriously today and sending 2 Royal Navy frigates to accompany it through British waters.
Paul, thank you very much indeed for the latest there.
Growing concern in Camden this lunchtime about the wide availability and use of synthetic cannabis, also known as spice, especially amongst the homeless community. It's legally available, it's highly addictive, and it's much, much stronger than organic cannabis. And despite Camden Council's efforts to restrict the sale of the drug, it's still being made widely available, as one anonymous user told me earlier today.
Within a few days of me smoking it, I come hooked and addicted. I wake up 10 times a night. I can't sleep. I'm just constantly thinking about it.
How much do you smoke? How much do you buy a day?
Probably about 5 or 6 grams a day.
Okay, so that costs you how much a day and how much per pot?
About £25 a day. I'm just going out, getting a spice, coming back, smoking it, and then I'm a zombie for the rest of the day. Within a minute of me leaving this building, I can go and buy it in 10, 20 different stores. People are selling it on the streets and people are selling it under the counter in shops. A 15-year-old kid could go in there and purchase it.
Live now to our reporter, Paul Hawkins.
Yeah, well, we'll get to social media in just a moment, but first I've been looking at what Americans have been searching for on Google. This is public information that's available to anyone who wants to look at it. Google make it publicly available. I've been looking at they've in the last few minutes Google have published the top searched issues during the debate. So if we run it on here, you can see that at the top, unemployment, it stays fairly well. It does stay top for the start of the debate, and then if we run it on, what gets interesting is that once you get about an hour into the debate, you can see unemployment then flips over, and abortion and the Supreme Court then remain more or less near the top. And that is the point in the debate where Kamala Harris was pushed by Mike Pence on whether Joe Biden would try and pack the Supreme Court if they won the election, a question which she didn't answer. And then a lot of people in the United States, and we should add, this isn't voter intention, but this does certainly say that a lot of people are curious about what they could do if they were to get hold of the Supreme Court, if they won the election.
Yeah, because we can't know if people are looking to reinforce their already established views or
exactly.
Might be,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So to me, that says that these are potential floating voters, because otherwise, if your view is entrenched, you wouldn't be searching for it, searching for more information. It's 3 a.m. in London. Good morning and welcome to Newsday on the BBC World Service with Bola Mosuro and Paul Hawkins.
It is 10 to 9 in the evening here in San Jose, in the capital of Costa Rica. I'm standing in front of the Supremo Tribunal de Selecciones, which is basically the home of the organisation that runs the elections in Costa Rica. I'm actually here with Carlos Alvarado, supporter. Sorry, what's your name?
My name is Andrea Rudin.
Ah, Andrea, good to speak to you then. So first of all, what have you made of the debate so far?
We are a party where we fight for the human rights, the environment situation, the fiscal situation of Costa Rica.
But the bank
was invited to do the audition for Black Panther. Within an hour, they had called her back and said, "We want that crazy old lady." That's how I got the job.
What other films that would you love to be in?
I'd like an action movie.
Yeah, an action movie?
Yeah, I'd like an action movie.
Wow.
Well, I'm doing everything but riding a horse. And what was your name again?
My name's Paul, Dorothy.
All right. Oh, what are we doing? Are we on? Is this an interview? Or
This is an interview for BBC Radio, International Radio. Yeah, BBC.
Oh my Lord! Oh, wait a minute. Oh my Lord!
There's hundreds of millions of people listening all over the world.
Oh, great. Tell everybody I said I love you, and I hope all of the good things in life happen.
At the moment, in case you've just woken up, just tuning into us, wherever you are in the world, there has been a mass shooting in New Zealand. This is in Christchurch, New Zealand's third biggest city. Multiple fatalities across 2 sites, 2 mosques. And the breaking news, as you heard there, several people have been injured after a van struck a crowd of pedestrians near a North London mosque in what police have called a major incident. This was just over one of our breaking stories this morning on Newsday. A huge fire at the Grenfell Residential Tower in West London. Just to bring you up to date with what is happening there, the fire broke out at 5 to 1 in the morning. This is near the bottom of the 27-storey building.
For a man who's staying at the club he says he loves, he didn't look that happy.
Well, you wouldn't be, would you, if you've gone to the boss, said, I think it's about time I need to leave, things aren't really happening for me anymore, I've won everything I want to in here, the boss says you can leave, and then he turns around when you put in your transfer request and says, well, someone's going to have to cough up 700 million euros for you to
Ouch.
go. You can understand why there's going to be some trust issues there, and now you're stuck at the club for a year that you didn't want to be at, with a boss, the president, not talking about the manager, but the president, who you don't really get on with.
Ouch. The league starts in, the 12th of September. The new manager, Ronald Koeman, who is himself a Barcelona legend, how does he motivate Messi, who clearly looks like he still doesn't want to be there?
Okay, so if you're Ronald Koeman, you say that even though we won absolutely nothing last season, that this is a team in transition, I'm going to turn things around, I'm going to make you the centrepiece, you're going to end your glittering career here, I'm going to strengthen in defence, I'm going to strengthen in midfield, we're a team that's going places, we can make this transition happen quick enough so the end of your career is as bright as the rest of it. That will be what Ronald Koeman will be wanting to do.
And he's got to redo the rest of the team as well.
Yeah, he's got to. I mean,
almost all over 30. Some of the main people there.
When they lost, when they were thrashed 8-2 by Bayern Munich in the Champions League, they fielded their oldest ever side in that competition. The average age was 29, which for those who don't know anything about football is quite oldish for football. So that was an old side they fielded. Replacements need to come in. They've got a lot of young players coming through, but they need some senior players. They need to buy senior players to give the side that kind of confidence when things aren't going for it.
Well, with me now is our news reporter, Paul Hawkins. And Paul, tell us more about this, because Israel is the first country to go back to national lockdown, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Up until now, every country in the world has had to maintain that difficult balancing act of keeping the economy open on one hand and protecting public health. Israel is the first country to ditch that balancing act. And in effect, it's saying we're going to bring in a national lockdown because there are 4,000 confirmed cases of coronavirus every day in Israel at the moment. The Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, earlier at a press conference explaining why they need to reimpose national lockdown.
On Thursday, they waved a red flag. Health Ministry executives and hospital managers have warned us that death rates are forcing the application of immediate measures. Some medical staff and hospitals are overwhelmed.
And Paul, the timing is pretty bad with a few Jewish national holidays on the horizon.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, in fact, the ultra-Orthodox housing minister, Yaakov Litzman, has resigned because he says that this will severely impact Jewish families trying to come together over the next couple of months, celebrating various Jewish festivals, including, of course, Yom Kippur on September the 27th. However, the Interior Minister, Aryeh Deri, has said that he leads another ultra-Orthodox party within the coalition. He said that he supports these measures and, in fact, that anyone who breaks these measures, he said, tantamount to murder. But the government, very serious about bringing this national lockdown. It's not something they would have wanted to do. The country's currently in recession, and the finance ministry says that this national lockdown is going to cost Israel $1.9 billion.